Hello guys, welcome to this all new channel, New to You Challenges, where I'm going to be attempting a bunch of challenges in different games. For this video, we're going to be attempting extreme shield surf challenges, and I'm going to be using the zero friction shield. For those of you who don't know, the zero friction shield is an item you can obtain in-game through the IST glitch. You can use this to corrupt its modifiers and give it the best possible shield surfing stat. I wanted to see what I could do with this amazing item. It definitely does still have limitations though. If you completely run out of speed, Link will still hop off of the shield. And if you bump into anything just like normal shield surfing, you'll fall off. So the first insane challenge that popped into my head was to see if I could shield surf completely through Gerudo Town, all the way from one entrance to the exit on the other side. This idea seemed totally ridiculous, but I knew that there was a chance, because one of the advantages of the zero friction shield over regular shields is that you can surf on surfaces that normally you could not, such as the stone ground of Gerudo Town. But even on these surfaces that you can still slide on, you don't get much speed. But I did figure out that once you do some sharper turns, you can gain speed on even flat parts of the ground. I had to make my way back after every failed attempt, so wind bombs came in handy. And thanks to that same crazy IST glitch, I have this insane 10-shot Twilight bow. With each attempt, I was getting closer and closer to making it all the way through Gerudo Town. But one of the main obstacles in my path was all of the tight turns I had to make. One thing that a lot of players don't know about shield surfing, even to this day, is that if you hold the R button, you can make very sharp turns. But these are very hard to control, and oftentimes you'll find yourself overcorrecting.
Well, excuse me, princess.
But after only a few attempts, I was so close and I knew this was possible. One thing I really like to do while shield surfing is to do a spin jump. You can perform these by pressing Y to start a spin and then instantly hitting X to jump. It doesn't really do anything useful, but it is very fun and stylish. So, after making my way over these two fences, I had to make the sharp turns once again. This time I had a decent amount of speed, and by using the R button, I was able to even increase that speed a bit. And after navigating around that last archway, I was home free. I had shield surfed all the way through Gerudo Town. But that was nothing compared to the challenges I was going to face next. First up was the bridge in front of the Colosseum. But I wasn't just going to surf across the bridge. I was going to surf across the railing. And let me tell you, this railing is rough. It's in a crumbly ruined state, plus there's these protrusions all along it that you have to jump over. Not to mention the fact that you have to basically surf all the way across in a straight line, or else you'll fall off one of the sides. I almost had to get into a rhythm in order to know when to jump over gaps and the protrusions. And some of the gaps were a lot bigger than others, which made it extra tricky. But on a very early attempt, I almost made it, just messing up on the last gap. This gave me a lot of determination. I knew that I could do it, but because of that, I was starting to become overconfident. I was getting a bit lazy towards the beginning of my attempts and running into some silly problems. This might look easy, but I promise you it's a lot harder to surf in a completely straight line than you think. If you start even just the tiniest bit off center at the beginning of an attempt, it's almost impossible to correct it. But I wasn't going to let this stop me, so I refocused and got back into the rhythm of my early attempts. I got very lucky when I went down into that gap, but I still was able to pop back up and continue. And at long last, I made it all the way to the other end of the railing. This was super satisfying, and I knew I wanted to challenge myself even further. So the next place that popped into my head was shield surfing all the way through the Zora's domain. I would have to start all the way at the top where the king is and work my way down until I could cross the entire bridge at the bottom. Being able to surf around areas like these with a zero friction shield is one of the funnest feelings ever. It's just so crazy because usually you can't surf on any of this stuff. One issue I've always had with this game though is I never pay attention to my shield's durability. Let's just say I go through a lot of shields very quickly, but thanks to tricks like item duplication, I'm able to have as many shields as I need. After making my way around these stairs, I knew I had to make a very sharp turn in order to get down to the bridge, which this time I nailed. And from here, it was just a complete straight shot to freedom. Cue the music. And just like that, I was moving on to the hardest challenge yet. The rules for this one were simple. I had to shield surf across the entire bridge to the giant tree stump and make my way all the way across the tree stump to the back of it. Now at first glance you might be saying, how is this hard? You just go straight. Well, this is why. This one bokoblin standing in the middle of the bridge is a menace. You wouldn't think he would be that hard to deal with, and under normal circumstances he wouldn't. But because he's specifically holding a spear and uses the thrust attack every time you approach, it makes it extremely difficult to get around him or over him. But before I could even think about doing that, I had to actually get on the bridge and stay on it, which was a huge challenge in and of itself. So I started coming up with lots of different ideas of how I could deal with this guy, and at first I just tried jumping, but even when I did it, he would still catch me. And half the time, this moblin would just be standing right in my way. Yeah, he really didn't like me. So my next idea was to jump earlier before the bokoblin could strike me. I figured I could just jump right over his thrust attack, but little did I know that he can thrust upwards. But it was after this shameful defeat that I remembered something very important. I actually had a means of attacking from a distance, even while staying on my shield, and that was pulling out the bow. But I had to aim and shoot while staying on the bridge and not lose speed like this. But with this new idea, my humanity was restored and hope was rekindled for this challenge. After getting wrecked so many times, I was taking great pleasure in shooting this bokoblin in the face. But doing so wasn't helping me with the challenge I was facing on the other side. I knew that if I could just get enough speed, I could probably make my way all the way across without having to deal with the bokoblin and moblin that were on the stump itself. And so I went full send and hoped for the best. I was a bit scared here when the bokoblin pulled out the bow, but he missed and I made it to the end of the tree stump. And just like that, I had 4 challenges down and 1 more to go. Little did I know that this would be by far the hardest shield surfing challenge I have ever attempted in this game. I found an area where this scaffolding in the desert makes a perfect loop. My goal would be to start on this rock in the middle and shield surf all the way around the entire loop back to the rock. The first frustrating thing I ran into with this challenge was even the slightest little bump would easily knock me off my shield. This meant that I had to jump over every single lip in the scaffolding as I made my way across. Not only that, but I also had to make extremely sharp turns with the R button and jump onto the second part of the railing. If I was even a little bit off on the execution of any of this stuff, I would fall straight down. And the footage that I'm showing here is probably only 1% of my entire attempts. If you think this looks easy, I dare you to get your hands on a zero friction shield and try this yourself, and you'll quickly realize this is very, very difficult. Every single turn took a ton of precision, and shield surfing in this game, while very fun, is definitely not the easiest thing to control. But this area was just so perfect for my challenge that there was no way I was giving up. I was at this for over 4 hours, trying out different strategies of ways that I could get farther and farther along. And even though my progress seemed insignificant, slowly but surely I was improving and figuring out new ways to navigate this tricky route. In fact, I was starting to get so far that I knew it was possible and there was no going back now. Towards the later half of the loop, I would oftentimes lose speed, but thanks to the R button and doing a bit of wiggling back and forth, I could build up a tiny bit of speed as I went. But every time I was nearing the end of the loop, I got super nervous and made some very poor choices. It became a tricky balance of trying to get enough speed that I could make it safely all the way around the loop without stopping, but also not going so fast that I was completely out of control and would plunge to my death over and over. Hopping helped a bit, and you'll see that at this point I accidentally pulled out my glider. But as part of this challenge, I wanted to make it all the way around the loop without using the glider to regain speed at all. And now more than ever, I was so close to reaching the end of the loop, but just was not there quite yet. But then, after more than 4 hours, somehow, this miracle of an attempt happened. I had finally done it, and I was stoked. Guys, making this challenge was extremely fun, and I have even more ideas of ways that I can challenge myself in Breath of the Wild in the future. Leaving a like and subscribing to the channel lets me know that you guys want more content like this. And next week, I'll be releasing a video where I challenged myself to play through all of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet with only shiny Pokemon. Make sure you're subscribed if you don't want to miss it. Thanks, guys.